And is it okay to understand that? Okay, that wasn't right for me to say. Let me, come back and be like, my bad.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
This is the context. What's going on, guys? It's the What It Is podcast. I'm Strolly. He's Marley.
That's me.
And this is a podcast where we talk about things that some people don't want to talk about. We talk about them. We get them out there. We spread our thoughts on them.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully make people think a different type of way, potentially.
Maybe. At least have a conversation.
At least.
Yeah. Maybe get a viewpoint that you may not have had.
Yep. Something like that.
A viewpoint that you have had and just talk about it in a different way.
Yep. At least we try.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you doing, Marley?
I'm a little tired, dude.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It was a long day today.
Yeah. I'm still trying to rebound off a night shift, so
Yeah.
I haven't been to sleep before midnight in weeks.
Oof. Yeah. My body's geared to waking up early, so like my body's like, hey, it's Monday. You know what tomorrow is.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Stop.
What is today's topic, Marley?
It's PC culture.
Okay.
And personal computers.
Yep. So graphics cards and how it's so much better than consoles.
PC master race.
Yep. Absolutely. Right?
The joke was a lot funnier in my head. I don't know, dude.
I just went with it.
Yeah, I just don't have the energy to land.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, PC culture. Just politically correct
culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just kind of...
You're going to talk about it?
Yeah.
Talk about what it is?
Name drop. Yes. Don't do that enough.
Okay. So what does PC culture mean to you?
Well, part of me feels offended when I hear it.
Interesting.
Well, just because, like, I feel like it's used more so as a trigger phrase.
Okay.
Than a legitimate ideal.
Okay.
Like, when I hear people talk about PC culture, it's usually in a negative light.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like usually making fun of it or calling people like social justice warriors, and it's not a positive thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think that there's guilt on both sides of that spectrum, right? There's guilt on the people who are making fun of it, and there's people who are practicing it because they kind of get carried away, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously, the majority, I would feel like, doesn't intentionally want to hurt people. Yeah. So then when you misinterpret my words in a different light and try and shame me for it, I would be upset about that. Like, I definitely, you know me, like, I'm all about the language, right? I'm all about what it is,
Most people don't like being portrayed as an asshole.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I can understand, like, people who are like, oh, you can't do that, or we're going to shame you for it. And it's like, dude, I messed up one time. Like, or, oh, I didn't realize I was being that way until you brought it to light. And now I can't even really apologize and get back what I had because you've already shamed me to the
it's already been
to
tainted.
The utmost level, right? Whereas, like, if we could just be like, all right, look, this is what the lines are. Let's try and stay in these lines. And if you go out of those lines, let's try and maturely correct that and not just be like, oh, nope. Fuck you. Yeah. You ain't shit. You're not allowed to have your job anymore because you like white people. Like, whoa, hold on. What? I didn't even say what how did this happen?
I don't even like white people.
Right. You don't know me.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's definitely different sides to it.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I don't like about it as a whole is the using it as a way of like feeling better.
Right.
Like
self-righteous.
Self-righteousness. Yes, I fucking hate self-righteousness.
I do too.
I fucking abhor self-righteousness. Like,
Yeah,
it is it's so irritating because, like, oh, you're just an asshole too.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
Oh, so you're telling me I'm wrong because everything you say is right. Yeah. But we can't also both be right.
Yeah, you're not pointing out my faults to better me. You're pointing out my faults to feel better about yourself.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part that really pisses me off, and I feel like that's, again, how being PC is more so like blown out of proportion.
Right, exactly. It's not a bad idea. Mm-hmm. It's just abused, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of like where I'm at, because like I am definitely not politically correct. I'm not even going to try.
Oh, absolutely not.
I try my best to be respectful of people, but like I'm not politically correct. You know, I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna offend somebody.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that's just kind of how I work. I don't mean it intentionally to offend or trigger somebody. I do it because, I mean, I kind of do like trolling a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do it a lot because I tend to find that point of view that nobody wants to hear, and I try and defend that to see, like, I mean, like, you all right?
Yeah, my bad. Hand got a little jumpy.
Yeah. I try and use that point of view to try and get people to think a little bit differently. Like, it's not necessarily my point of view, right? Or my perspective of it. It's like,
oh, you pissed me off before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah, we've had those conversations.
You're mad because you want $15 an hour for people. Well, like, what happens if that backfires?
I don't anymore.
Right.
I guess I had bad experiences the last couple days.
Yeah, he's not about it. But yeah,
I kid.
But like, it's one of those things where it's like, I totally get. Like, I'm totally down to have that conversation about, the minimum wage, for lack of a better explanation, right? But I'm definitely going to hit you with this stuff. I'm going to counter you extremely hard because, not because I want to make you look like an asshole or I want to get you with a gotcha moment or whatever. I just want you and everyone else to think of it differently. Like, follow my train of thought. Don't just reject me because your emotions feel differently. Like, follow me and peer on that side. You don't have to agree with it, but just humor me at least. You know what I mean? Just see where I'm coming from.
Certain shit like that, I get. It can be irritating. Obviously, like, people get emotional. That's natural. Like I said, you pissed me off before. Like, you haven't pissed me off before. You've annoyed the shit out of me before.
Yeah, I've got you.
I'm just like, you son of a bitch, you know.
And then I just laugh.
And I know that you get me, and I'm just like, motherfucker. Like, there's nothing I can do, you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, it's like, I get it, but in times of serious conversation, it's like, well, it's not my responsibility, you know. Like, I can try. But at the end of the day, like, I may not be able to change your mind. So now I'm getting all caught up for nothing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's really, like, because, like I said, like, I definitely, most of the opinions that I argue and stuff like that, they're not really how I truly feel. It's just, I get a lot of, I have a rightward leaning perspective, like, not right, but leaning more towards that way. Yeah. So,
I have more left-leaning.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, I tend to, I don't really get a lot of, there's not a lot of people who kind of agree with me into the aspect of, like, I'm totally open-minded still. Like, so there's plenty of times where, you've been like, oh, well, that's not right. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It actually isn't right. Yeah. Like, I do change my mind, if you will. But I see a perspective that a lot of people that I talk to don't necessarily see. And that's why I like to, push that. Like, with this PC culture thing, like, I don't want to be politically correct. I don't want to feel like I'm being watched with a microscope on my language. It's like,
because are you trying to be PC just to look good? Like, what's not you, but like that changes it. Like, oh, you're just watching where you say these things as opposed to, like, how you say them or who you say them to, just to avoid consequences. Because now there are consequences for these kind of things.
Context is extremely important. Yeah. And I think it's very valuable because there's certain things that's like you can't talk about because of PC culture or whatever, the wind's blowing east to west today, so we can't talk about guns. You know what I mean? Like that. Like, I want to talk about that shit. Yeah. Why can't we talk about it? Oh, we can't talk about it because it hurts people's feelings. Well, then we need to talk about it more so we can understand it better, right? Like, let's have this conversation about PC and not PC, and is it okay to? I don't know. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head.
And you're gone.
Yeah, right. Is it okay to not be PC by mistake? Right? And is it okay to understand that, okay, that wasn't right for me to say. Let me, come back and be like, my bad. Yeah. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah. This is the context, take it for what it is. I'm sorry that people took it a certain type of way, but I didn't mean it in that respect. So understand my perspective a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, not, the wrong thing that I did or said or whatever. Don't, just reject it and null and void it now, but understand that, it wasn't right, but here it is. Here's the context, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know, like jokes, right? Like comedy.
Yeah, humor's a very tough
like
place to be.
Comedy in the 90s, it cannot do now. You can't do that now. Period.
Pretty much. pretty fucking much.
Yeah. But that comedy in the 90s wasn't bad comedy. It just, we're different now.
Yeah. Part of the thing is like, so you're saying that the jokes you were saying 30 years ago can't fly today, so it's not okay to be funny. No.
It's just not okay to use those jokes.
Be more creative.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, come up with something different.
Yeah, you think comedy in the 50s is still going to be hilarious today? Like, come on. Like, obviously things change, generations change, times change, culture changes. So it's just culture changing. Like, there's nothing that's outrageous happening now.
Right.
It's not anything crazy. It's just natural evolution of the culture. Like, people are being held more accountable, which I don't think is a bad thing.
No.
People are their eyes are being open to how we affect each other because of how connected the world is now.
Yeah.
You can't just say jokes on a stage in the 90s where that's where it's going to stay. That's the only place. The only people that are going to hear it are the people there.
Yeah.
And then it's just word of mouth after that. You know, people have phones to record shit. Soon as something gets on YouTube, it's everywhere. Yeah. Anybody can get a hold of it. All you need is to be blasted on some blog, somebody's news report, and then it's everywhere.
Yeah. Like OG South Park, right?
Yeah.
That stuff was close when it came out. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, ooh, you're getting in pretty offensive territory. But we all understood that it was it was comedy, and it's okay to laugh at ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, obviously, you've mentioned a couple times that there has to be context. Like, I find some fucked up shit funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even just, like, from what I've expressed through the podcast and how I've talked to you, I don't like offending people. Like, if you have genuine concern with something that I've said, I won't say that. I will be like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. I don't mean that. And I'll be mindful of that in the future.
Right, exactly.
That's from a personal, like, on a personal level. When you're doing something and you say something and it's meant for just, like, a small crowd, or it's meant for, like, one or two people, and then it's just blasted to millions of people, you're going to piss somebody off. Just by the rule of numbers, you're going to piss somebody off.
Yeah, somebody's going to be upset.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter what exactly you say. You're probably going to piss somebody off.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, it's such a hard thing to try to nail down. It's such a fluid concept.
Right.
And it's both big and small. It's like, how are we policing our every thought? Are we policing just the things that we create? Like, how are we to care for... How are we to cater to millions of people is when it's kind of like, well, I have this group that think it's hilarious. I have this group that like think it's really funny, but like maybe you shouldn't. It's towing a line. And I have this group that's also just completely pissed off and they think I'm the devil. Like, it's so hard to navigate these waters. And I think it's because these waters are relatively new.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also don't think that, like, you know, with what you're saying, like, this group likes me, this group is okay with it, but, you know, I'm not their favorite and this group hates me. Like, I don't think that content needs to go away, though. You know what I mean? I think it's okay to have those pockets, right? It's okay to have a fan base that's hated by another fan base, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay for that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to go away because the majority of the population is that fan base that hates that fan base. I don't think the majority should make that distinction on what content should be there and what shouldn't be there.
There's always people that's hated South Park. There's always been people that think it's just too vulgar and too offensive and that will hate it to the day it exists to the day it ends.
Right, absolutely. And that's okay.
That's fine.
It's okay to have those contrasts. Yeah. But what's not okay is when we're like, okay, well, this group that doesn't like you is like 40% of everyone. So because of that, we're going to cancel you. Yeah. Or you're no longer allowed to do that content. It's like, but why? There's 60% of other people who still have interest. You know what I mean? And 10% of that, for whatever, you know, or 20% actually really enjoys it. So why can't why do we have to alienate these people just because this other group of people, which is more by percentage, doesn't agree?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where that line of PC culture needs to kind of go. Like, I think it's good to have an understanding and to be respectful of people. I don't think it's okay for us to just arbitrarily be like, nope, you're wrong. You need to go get fucked. You know what I mean?
It's because who gets to draw the line when it comes to being PC, I think.
And that's another thing. Who is drawing the
line? Who's
PC
enough? Like, who gets to... what is non-offensive enough that it's okay to be a thing?
The moderators and creators of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Those are the people that draw the line. And I think that's dangerous. I think that's extremely dangerous to have private companies and private entities draw that line. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because it's been clear that they've drawn lines. They themselves have drawn lines on their platforms, which is fine. And I'm not, right, wrong, or indifferent. That is what it is. There's certain lines that do need to be drawn by them appropriately for good reason. But when, like, for instance, like, COVID, Facebook realized that, oh wait, maybe it was from a lab in Wuhan. Like, they banned and blocked posts of people who were saying that in the beginning, and it's like, fine, so be it. Maybe you didn't want to cause hysteria, but just because you don't agree with that opinion or perspective or idea doesn't mean it needs to go away.
But at the same time, I feel like that could have been to try to, how do I say it, curb negative reactions.
So that's where I'm going to say I don't like that. Because just because something is negative doesn't mean we shouldn't hear it.
Maybe, but when, like,
I mean, obviously it's situation based.
In that topic, I can see it being like, you don't want.
Fine. So that's and okay, I'll give you that, right?
Yeah.
Fine, so be it. Maybe at that time we didn't need that, right? Let that come out later. That's fine. It doesn't matter. But maybe we didn't need it at that time. But there's other things that have happened, like shady stuff that's not shady, but like you really banned them for that. Or even another thing too, demonetization on YouTube is a big thing too, where it's like, oh well, if you, like, when COVID was first around, again, to use that, but when that was first around, if anybody like even mentioned COVID,
they were being demonetized.
They were being demonetized, and it's like, fine, okay, but like, now you're fucking with people's money.
Yeah.
And now that's fucked up. It's one thing, see, I don't like censorization. I want everything to be there. You know what I mean? I'm cool with everything being out there. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Nah.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, no. Absolutely not.
I not agree. I understand. I do get that.
But I don't view like the opposites, I don't think that you either have to allow everything or you allow nothing.
Well, look at science, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no. True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
there are lines. I'm cool with lines.
Yeah,
but for the most part, I'd rather have everything out there.
Yeah.
I'd rather have no lines than very strict lines, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. But like, look at science, right? When somebody does something, it gets scrutinized to the you used a instead of an here. So that's null and void. Like, science gets scrutinized that quickly and that precisely because it needs to be, right? I'm okay with having people get scrutinized and be like, okay, I don't agree with that. Okay, well, why don't you agree with that? Well, because of X, Y, and Z. Fine. Let's have, like, having those conversations are important. And when you take away the minority opinion, right, then you kind of, there's no more questioning. There's no more conversations that can be had. Obviously, those minority viewpoints, like conspiracy theories and stuff like that, they can be toxic and they can be detrimental. And I'm not going to challenge that. But at the same time, if we're not allowed to have that conversation and we're not allowed to talk about it, well, then what's different from dictatorship, right? Or like North Korea, where they're not allowed to have internet. Obviously, two extremes, and for sure.
Yeah, that's where I was going with. Like, it's not all or nothing.
I agree.
There needs to be a happy medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not saying we should allow people who are saying, death to America or terroristic threats, those kind of things. I'm definitely dangerous stuff. But when it comes to people expressing their opinions or expressing some information that they have, whether it is right or wrong, it should be allowed.
But then
scrutinized.
But sure, but then, like, again, where do you draw the line between what's dangerous and what's not?
That's why I said I'd rather have no lines than a strict line.
But then you open the floodgates to everything that's dangerous.
Potentially.
Absolutely.
So I guess really like anytime when you're expressing touche.
Yeah.
I mean it's
like you don't want Death to America, tough. But you would rather have Death to America than no Death to America. Like that big like that.
No.
But then that's you drawing the line.
Yeah.
That's you censoring.
Yes, that's what I just said though. I said I don't think you should have Death to America, but I think you should also be able to be like, hey, COVID was manufactured in a lab in Wuhan.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Tell me I'm wrong, right? Or explain to me why you think I'm wrong. And if your explanation for telling me that I'm wrong is because, oh, well, there's no way. Well, it's like, that's not telling me I'm wrong. That's you just not wanting to agree with me. And I'm going to take that opinion and be like, well, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like I understand having a line there needs to be a line. I'm okay with a line, but I think that line needs to be as lax as possible, especially when it comes to like these social platforms, right? Where they're private, but they're a public space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like it gets kind of weird, right? Especially in the legal sense. So I think that line needs to be thinner or weaker than if it was a pure private company, right? If you had to pay for a subscription to be on that platform, strict as possible. I could care less because somebody's making that money and being like, okay, well, I'm going to follow these rules. A free private business where you express stuff publicly and you can converse publicly and you deal with the public, I think it should have a lighter line placed.
I just see so many ways that can go wrong versus going right.
I definitely understand.
You know what I'm saying?
That.
Like
yeah.
there's so many more like those rules, those restrictions are there for reasons.
Yes, but I think the rules and restrictions that are there for reasons are exploited to the utmost extent. And I think that's where we run into an issue. So maybe it's not necessarily the lines that are drawn. It's more or less the people who are monitoring those lines that are becoming a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe. I don't know. I just feel like those rules and regulations do more good than harm.
They do more good for people's happiness and well-being, I guess is a better way to put it. But my perspective is that actually trying to appease to everybody and being like, oh, well, I don't want these people to get offended and I don't want them to get triggered, so we're not going to allow this, is actually worse than those people actually being offended. Because then you're saying, oh, well, because I offend somebody, because what I'm going to say is triggering somebody, I'm not allowed to talk. That's not fair.
Yes, because all I can think of is hate speech.
And I'm not even necessarily talking about hate speech because obviously there's and that's we can draw the line there. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But I think we can't use hate speech as triggering speech. You know what I mean? I understand. I know. I'm being very vague, but I think it's tough when, like, for instance, if I can't even think of anything off the top of my head that's not like extremely like
not to an extreme.
Yeah, exactly. Me being like, well, what if this? Well, no, that's
yeah.
So if it was something that wasn't hate speech, right? It wasn't actually hate speech. Like it wasn't like me using a slur or something like that. It was just an opinion that was very different from the public, right? And I brought that out there, and people got offended by that opinion. And like I said, it definitely wasn't hate speech, right? But it gets censored because it offends people.
I'm just not sure what kind of opinion.
I don't know either.
You know, like that like I can only think of examples that are legitimate to block.
Well, so I guess I'll go back to the example of the virus being made in a lab in Wuhan.
But that I don't think you can use it because that's such a standout example. Like that's such a unique situation.
How so?
It was
what makes that
global
unique
pandemic.
No, I understand, but what makes that unique compared to...
You're immediately putting a target on a group of people. Think about the president calling it the Kung flu.
Oh, well, that was hilarious. like out of like completely out of context and like obviously like that was clever. It wasn't right, but it was funny.
It's not right in the slightest,
as
but
comedy,
I get the
that's
kung
hilarious.
flu. Yeah, as pure, just like kung flu.
Yeah,
but like, we've talked about how the fucking motherfucking
like,
president saying that shit.
Yeah. So, but like, dude, I understand. That's tough.
That's what like the whole corona, like that, the whole thing that happened with demonetizing and like, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I could see a purpose to it.
So why was the conversation not allowed to have had before, but now it's okay? Because we have more information.
We have more information. We have more safety regulation. We have vaccines. We're prepared to take on this conversation because this is no longer a world-ending issue. This is no longer like...
I don't think it was ever a world-ending issue.
It's no longer a world-ending issue. Like this.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't think it was ever that bad. I mean, it definitely was bad, but I think it wasn't a plague. It was a virus.
Looked like it, dude. Did you go to Giant like right after that shit happened? It was weird.
Yeah,
shit was roped off. There was arrows to where you could go. There was plaques everywhere and signs for masks.
That was panic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That wasn't the virus doing it. That was just pure panic. You know what I mean? So I mean that's beside the fact, right? I do understand what you're saying. Like there definitely needs to be a line drawn, but I think that line needs to be scrutinized as well.
Sure,
because
that's what I'm saying. Like I can't say that I completely agree with it. I can't, because it's a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I'm 100%. Yes, they should have done it. They did it right. That's without a doubt the right thing to do. But I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong thing to do in that kind of situation. There's a thing that you have to do to protect people. And this is when it's under scrutiny now. This is when you look back and be like, oh, well, what happened because of that?
Yeah.
Who was hurt and who was helped due to those actions? You don't see that when it happens. You see that down the road.
Yeah.
This is the time where it becomes scrutinized.
Yeah, but
having those rules, having those lines drawn, that's why I'm like, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd rather have those lines drawn and have those lines either peeled back or enforced further to be scrutinized, like you're saying, to be put out there and to say, hey, you know what? We're thinking maybe you can curse in the first minute of your video and not be demonetized. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like, or maybe like it's actually affecting viewership to the point that like, no, maybe we're gaining a greater audience to your video. Like, I don't know. I don't have access to that information.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have these things thrown out there and to protect the people that need to be protected in those times. That's how I see what had happened.
Yeah, I think a lot of my resistance with all of this is it has a lot to do with when I hear PC culture, I think of censorship, and I get very upset when I hear about censorship, and that's mainly because of the fact that it's like I think language deserves words. Conversations they need to be made. We need to talk about with what happened with George Floyd. We need to talk about it on both sides of the spectrum. With what happened in Kenosha. Kenosha, right? That was a kid with the AR.
Yeah.
Like we need to talk about that, and we need to go about it in a mature way. Obviously, the extremes on both sides need to be hushed, or not.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
They need to be chilled, right? Okay, stop. Let's talk about this.
Like quiet children.
Let's talk about like this, like fucking human beings. Let's act like adults, and let's discuss why
that kid is a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, or why he was right for what he did. Right. I think those conversations need to be had. They need to be had in a mature way. And like I said, when I hear PC culture, and that's why I say like I'm not PC, because I want to have those conversations. And I feel like in a PC culture world where we're at right now, if you will, but I feel like we're not allowed to have those conversations. We're not allowed to express those opinions that people don't disagree people disagree with.
That's why I'm mixed on it as a whole, because we see how it's taken to the extreme on both ends, like how there's a difference between being PC and being held accountable.
Right.
Accountability is more a personal issue. Like accountability, like people can try to hold you accountable, but if you don't change, you're not being held accountable. Like if you're saying the same shit you said 20 years ago and you're standing by it, obviously times have changed and that shit is not okay. Then fuck your platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you don't have the respect enough for the platform and the audience that you have, that you're not willing to admit that times have fucking changed.
So
that, like I said, the same shit that people joked about in the 50s.
Yep, it's not okay now.
Guarantee it's not okay now. But you get.
But somebody, in the 50s, it was funny and it was fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's kind of what I really am like basing my shit off of. Is where it's like, the 50s humor was bad.
But just because
it
was acceptable,
it was fine.
Just because it was acceptable then
doesn't mean it's acceptable.
Doesn't make it acceptable now.
Yeah.
Obviously, culture changes.
Yeah.
People change. Everything changes. We're moving towards where we are a more connected world, and we're, as a culture, adjusting to that.
Yeah.
We're more connected now than we were 10 years ago, and then we were 10 years before that.
Yeah.
You know.
So
people still had flip phones in 2010.
Yeah, facts. I miss flip phones.
I mean, I do too.
T9.
But now I have a fucking computer in my pocket. Like that. Think about that.
Send a text in my hoodie pocket when I was in school with just using T9. Shit was lit. I love you so much, babe.
Gross.
Yeah, I know, right? No. So, and I just want to touch on this real quick with what I was saying with like censorship and how I find PC culture and censorship. Like, remember what was that social media platform that was for the right wing? What was that called?
I don't remember. I think it died.
Yeah. Why did it die? That doesn't need to die. We need to have that. I think having that, having those pockets, these people were okay with it. These people were meh, okay, whatever. And then these people hated it. I understand. And that's where I'm saying that's where I go back to lines drawn. But for the most part, that doesn't need to go away. You know what I mean? There should be avenues for people to talk.
Depending on what they're talking about.
I guess. I mean, what's wrong talking about insurrections? Like, I think normal Tuesday.
I think that was the biggest shot in the foot for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately,
no, for sure. Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. Yeah, I definitely understand that.
But that's the kind of shit that deserves to be shut down.
Yes, or monitored better. You know what I mean?
Or having lines drawn and restrictions.
That's what I mean.
And being censored.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For the most part,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, at the end of the day, PC culture is just to protect other people.
And as an ideal, I don't think it's harmful or wrong.
No.
As people
how it's
carry
practiced.
it, how people practice it.
It's become bastardized
wrong. Because there's a difference. Like I said, there's a difference between being PC and being held accountable.
Yeah. Love PC. I love PC culture. I hate social justice.
There's a difference between censorship and accountability.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yep. And I think yes, absolutely. Yeah. Accountability needs to be made.
Yeah.
Censorship.
Censorship's a little bit more of a gray area.
Yeah.
Like please stop.
Yeah. please
stop.
Please let us talk about.
Stop with the fuck shit.
Yeah. like just let us talk about things, you know, even if we're wrong. Let us be told that we're wrong, but don't just get rid of us because you think we're wrong. You know what I mean? I think that's
but then thing. After you're told that you're wrong,
and that's on that person, right?
Yeah.
If you're told that you're wrong and then you continue to still spout wrong, but if I'm told that I'm wrong and I'm only told that I'm wrong because there's no way that that's right, I'm not going to accept that me being wrong. You know what I mean? I should be wrong for a reason, not wrong because you don't agree with me.
Yeah, all right.
And I think that's kind of where I'm talking about with censorship, where I get worried, is where it's like, when you're telling me I'm wrong because you just don't agree with me, well, I'm not wrong then. You just don't agree with me.
Yeah.
You're not telling me why I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that you don't agree with me. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Right.
Why is $15 an hour for everyone economically better than not? You know what I mean? And don't just tell me, people need the money. No. There's ways around that. Tell me why I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
Because people need the money.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But that's like the base of it. Like, don't tell me I'm wrong and censor me.
Yeah.
Because you disagree.
Right. Well, if I tell you you're wrong, better change your shit up.
If you tell me I'm wrong and you tell me I'm wrong for a stupid reason, I'm going to tell you you're stupid.
Then I'll block you.
It's that easy? Wow. Hey guys, I got an opening for a new host.
Guys, I'm sorry. I lost it. I had nothing.
No, you're good.
Guys, I'm looking for a new job.
Yep. Yeah.
I just again, take into account other people. Like,
yeah.
understand that times change, culture changes. You're not going to be right all the time.
And that's the thing that like I think we touched on, or I touched on in the beginning, where I was like, I don't want to be PC. I want to be respectful, right? Like I'm not saying things that are going to offend you
for the purpose of offending you.
Yeah,
I'm just.
But if I say something that does offend you, let me know, and I won't say that anymore, or I won't do that thing or whatever. But I'm not in. I don't want to make. I don't want you to. I don't want to have to feel like I have to walk on eggshells because everything that I could say could be offensive. Like, just let me know that I'm offended, that I'm offending you, and then I just won't do it again. Mm-hmm. I'll just say it behind your back.
Exactly, like real friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's a good place, dude.
Yeah, you think that's a good place to stop?
Yeah, we'll tackle cancel culture next.
Yeah,
which is a whole different animal.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, get ready to be canceled.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time coming.
All right, anything else to add? You can say no.
No, I always like to say something.
Okay.
Fuck the Kenosha kid.
Wow. Okay. Good for him using his Second Amendment right.
Guys, I'm looking for a new host.
Oh, shit.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, right.
Love All right, you guys.
Well, we appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to share. Absolutely. And try and help us out. We're, still trying to grow.
Maybe throw a watch in there. I don't know. Maybe actually watch the video.
Yeah, Marlon. Maybe you should watch the video. All right, guys. We love you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Switchies.